Welcome to Soul Thrive, where we explore spirituality through healing trauma, shadow work, and applying the laws of the universe in order to master ourselves without the fear of the unknown. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the Soul Thrive podcast. We're so happy that you are here. Please introduce yourself to our audience, what you're all about.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Chris from Minnow Pond Tarot, and I read cards there. That's all I do.
You do more than
You're
that.
so,
Yeah.
don't be so modest, Chris. Come on.
Right.
I want to say I've been following the Minnow Pond Tarot YouTube channel for the last 4 years. I think Chris is one of the best tarot readers and content creators on YouTube. I love the unique way that you read, and we'll get into all of that stuff. So, but there's more, Chris. Come on, don't be modest.
Yeah, and I have the Chris Rec channel. I share on there. I share all the stuff from DENT Makers, which is a startup I'm working on, and so we actually share a lot of free content there from DENT Makers. So I also recommend people check that out as well.
Yes, absolutely. That would be great.
We'll tag that too. Awesome. So, like a true Virgo, I've put together some questions that
Of
we'll get
course.
into. Of course. Who's the planner here? Pisces or Virgo?
100% Virgo. I just go with the flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, tarot is your full-time job right now, essentially, which is amazing. The fact that you can actually even do that. So, what first drew you to tarot? Like, how did you even become interested in that? And then how the hell does that become your full-time job?
Yeah, I've always been interested in weird stuff. Even when I was a kid, I was talking about this last night. I used to watch a show by Arthur C. Clarke. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like about strange mysteries, like crystal skulls and things like that. And so I started watching that probably when I was like 5 years old. And so I've always been into weird stuff. I got a deck. I think I was like I don't even know how old I was, but I got my first deck, and it was I screwed around with it like a little bit, but I never took it seriously at first. And then, but through that time, I was like learning about it a little bit, here and there. And then from there, I started listening to Coast to Coast AM, which was a like paranormal, radio show that used to be popular. It still is. And they had a guy on who was teaching playing cards, like how to read playing cards.
Oh yeah.
And
Like
so,
actual, like,
Oh,
like
yeah.
actual
I
just
actually
playing
can
cards.
read.
Yeah,
I can read playing cards. Yeah, I used to do
yeah.
that. Like for my friends in high school, I would actually pull out playing cards and I would read.
Yeah, that's
okay.
so. Yeah, so I started learning from him, and so I learned how to read cards. At the same time, like I was like 21, and I had a big marketing company at the time, and it kind of went under, and so I was doing nothing for like 4.5 years of my life, and I was stuck in life. And my mom was like, "Hey, you should start a tarot channel," because I was always messing around with cards, and so I started it that night. I started the channel, and haven't stopped since.
So how long has it been now? Like
It's
since
been
you
almost
actually
like
started?
10 years.
And years.
I think it was May 2016 that I started the channel.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I love that your mom is the person who's kind of pushed that perspective on you. Was she into like the occult as well? Was she into like reading cards or communicating to like angels or guides or deceased loved ones or anything like that?
I would say she's very intuitive, and she's always been interested in, like, I remember back in the day when Sylvia Brown was really big, like she was into
Oh
that,
yeah.
into Sylvia Brown. She's done a lot of stuff too. Like she has, certification for, past life regression, stuff like that. So she worked with Brian Weiss, who is a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
past life regression guy. And so she's always been into this stuff, not as much like the tarot side of things, I would say, but
Right.
more, things more like that, like hypnosis, past life regression, and of course, like astrology.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's actually really nice. I mean, when I teach my clients, when I'm doing a lot of the trauma work with my clients, I always give them the perspective that your mom's your first example of what the
Mm,
universe is.
yeah.
And so like this is such a cool way of looking at like your mom's literally like, hey, you could literally do anything and have this
Yeah.
experience
And here you are.
and here you
And
are,
here I am.
which is
Yeah.
like the polar opposite of what I experienced as a child because
Mm,
I grew up in an Orthodox like with an Orthodox background, religious. So when I came out years later being like, I'm a medium, I talk to, communicate and deal with all this stuff, my parents were like, excuse me, what? Like,
yeah.
and you're gonna make money doing this? Like, are you insane? And I was like, yeah. And then all of a sudden people started showing up my front door. And my dad's like, what are you telling them? So it's amazing to see that your mom is so supportive in that.
Yeah, her mom is the one who told me. She actually told me I was an Aquarius when I was young, like 4 or 5. That's like probably my earliest experience. And now her mom is like super religious now, so is all against all this stuff. But her
Oh
mom,
no,
yeah,
really
yeah,
interesting.
she went the
Wow.
opposite. She used to be, her mom used to be into, totally into astrology and everything like that.
Did she have any like traumas? Show like I don't we need to get into it
Yeah,
completely, but like I usually find that individuals that go back to religion after they've visited the occult, it usually is because they hit a certain level in their healing practice where they're asked to go deeper into the shadow
yeah.
aspects of their emotions. And what ends up occurring is they don't want to see those parts of themselves. They don't want to deal with those parts. And so fear starts to lead and they go right into what the comfort zones are. Like they'll go back to the Bible, back to religion, back to certain things, and then disown all of that work that they've done as far as their development, spiritual development goes. Would you agree to that? Or
Yeah, I would say she strikes me. I haven't talked to her since I was 10, but she strikes me as like what I would say is like a seeker energy. Like I think she's
yeah,
always been seeking something, and
yeah,
so this is just what she's landed on.
yeah,
And so that's how I would describe it. And I think the trauma thing is definitely 100% true.
yeah,
So, and I think people who are seekers, not that there's anything wrong with it, but
yeah.
I think that's kind of where it comes from. Well,
I
a lot
agree.
of the times.
Yeah. Do you know Doreen Virtue?
Yeah, of course. Same
She
same
was
thing with
same
same
thing happened to
same
her.
That's
thing.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I remember when I first started on my journey about like just kind of connecting to or figuring out what this whole spirituality aspect was. I mean, I was a very spiritual person, and funny enough, I actually wanted to be a nun when I was like pretty little.
Oh my
I
Like,
could see it.
yeah, I was like, I did. I was telling everyone, I want to be a nun, I want to be a nun, and they're like, you're insane. Anyways, point was, I got involved in all of that stuff and I had been seeing spirits since I was a kid and all that was
Hmm.
going on. And Doreen Virtue played a significant part when she introduced the angel component to me because I
Yeah,
used to pray to angels and God and all of that. And now she's gone like, again, that polar opposite kind of really
yeah.
religious, but I feel like she is someone that exhibits a money hungry person, a person who's just
Hmm.
looking for what's the next thing because she was really big in
Yeah.
spirituality and it got really saturated. So she's like, now I feel like everybody's doing this. So what do
Mm.
I need to do to flip the script, right?
I've seen the story play out a million times. I can't tell you how many readers I've seen like come and go from YouTube, and they all do the same thing. They all go
Yeah,
to, and
yeah,
again, not that I have anything wrong with it. Like I fully
no,
support people who go to church,
yeah,
who choose
me
religion and
too.
everything like that. I mean, so I have nothing against it, but it is interesting. I've seen it happen so many
Yeah,
times.
yeah, I do feel like, again, I think that's the trauma that leads there, but I'm glad that we're
Mhm.
having this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very important, I think, people to understand that when you're working or you're doing these things, even with tarot, like I'm sure you've gone through some things in your own personal journey around working through tarot and your spiritual development that felt scary or felt a little uncomfortable, maybe. Do you have any experiences like that?
Yeah, I would say being a Pisces, criticism, right? It's like,
Yeah,
putting yourself online and getting so much criticism for things and, just learning. I'm glad I did it because it, built that rhino skin, right? Where I just
yeah.
can, now it doesn't even affect me. But I would say it probably took me longer than most people to just get over myself, is what I say. So, that's what it
Yeah, that's a
is.
good way of looking at that. I
Yeah.
think I still need to learn how to get over myself too.
Yeah, right.
I love it. I mean, to that point, I really like your approach to readings because you read, it seems like intuitively, because a lot of the times when you
Mm,
read, you will say, and I know you do like you do weekly readings and monthly readings and then bonus readings. And I think I've actually learned to read tarot almost through you, through
Ooh,
watching your
amazing.
channel. Well, it's because like you would pull out a card and you would say, this is typically what the card represents. You'll call out like different symbols or aspects of the card, but then you'll say based on whatever week, whatever's going on, you say, but I actually feel something different. So it's like there's an intuitive approach to it. So how has that started? Like when did you realize that you had this intuition, and then how did you incorporate that into even your readings? Because that's another way of like putting yourself out there and actually sometimes going against what the card traditionally said, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was pretty easy for me. The first thing that happened to me is I read for a lady, and I kept focusing on the hair in the readings. I always tell this story, and I was like, it was just one of those things. Like, it stood out to me. I can't even explain it, like why it stood out to me, but I was really focused on it, and I didn't say anything in the reading. And then, like after she was like going to work for a salon or something, she messaged me. She thought the reading was great, but she said the thing about the salon. I was like, oh my god, I should have said, I should have said the thing about the hair that was standing out to me. So that one really woke me up. I still remember it. That was like one of my one of the first people I read for. It was like right at the beginning, and so I'm glad that happened because I was like, oh, I should just trust the things that pop into my head.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Do you lean on, are you more clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient? Which one do you lean on the most?
I call it spewing. So
Okay.
I don't, so maybe channeling is a better way to put it, but I
Yeah,
just get out of my own way. I just don't think, and it's kind of
yeah,
like a weird concept, but I just start talking and it just comes out. Like I don't even think about the things that I'm really saying. Like half the time people will say, "Oh, you said this in this reading." I'm like, "What?" Like I have to go back and listen. And
yes,
what's really weird is like when I really get into it, I will say some like off the wall stuff where someone said, I don't even remember. There was one the other day. I wish I could remember it, but a lady said, I kept getting all these weird comments. I was like, what? Like, what are these people talking about? I went back and watched, and I totally said something that was like so off the wall that was in the reading. I was like, I don't even remember saying that.
right. Well,
Yeah.
it's funny. I think it's an ongoing theme because I'm
Mhm.
very much like that too, where when I'm doing the work, I'm in the zone. I'm like just reading or I'm
Yeah.
communicating or channeling. I like to call it knowing. I know
Yeah.
I'm someone who is like clairaudient, clairvoyant, clairsentient. Like I have all elements of that. So it very much is a knowing, but she can attest to the fact that I'll be like, I said that when I
Yeah. When?
remember.
And I remember everything I say.
Yeah. Of
They're
course.
like, do you recall the time you said this? I'm like, no, I don't. And so
Yeah.
I think it's important for people who do readings or channel or heal, like we can't remember everything we say. Number one, don't hold it against us because we are
Yeah.
just a messenger. Because I think that sometimes people do get lost in the translation. They
Mhm.
forget that just like going to see a doctor, you're seeing a doctor. Just like going to get a reading,
Hmm.
you're going to go get a reading. And so you shouldn't get upset with the information that's coming
Yeah.
because we're literally just messengers. That's all
Yeah.
we are. And then
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember after. So it's gone,
Hmm.
right?
It's gone.
Until I go back and then I'm like, okay, now I remember your energy is very familiar if I'm working with
Hmm.
that person again. But I just wanted to put that little tiplet of a tip so
Yeah.
people can understand. I'm sure that you can relate to that, right?
Yeah.
Because
Definitely.
right, people do hold your word so
Hmm.
much when it comes to doing this work. And I find, I don't know if maybe this is something that you can relate to for myself. It's like when I say something, even if I'm like not working or I just make a comment on something, someone's like, did she literally mean this right now?
Yeah.
Is this like a literal thing? And I'm like, no, I actually wasn't, I it was just an opinion or, so
Yeah.
find that because people know that you're so intuitive, sometimes they'll take you so literally.
Yeah, I try to make it a point to say that, to me, tarot astrology, it's just like loose guidance at best. It's, a map for the energy that exists, so you can work with it or not. And I try to make it a point to tell people, like, I think that it's become, people look at it as too predictive, and it can be predictive. I think that's part of it. But I also think it's more important that you work with the energy, So I get so many times people are like, you're too positive, or the tower came up. How come you didn't say my life is going to fall apart? I'm like, sure. If you believe that your life is going to fall apart, absolutely, it can fall apart. Sure, go for it. But tarot doesn't just say the tower's happening, you're screwed. It says this is like what to do with this energy. So
Yes.
that's what I choose to focus on.
Right. I love that
Mhm.
because I had a recent terror moment about 6 to 8 months ago. It was a very big highlighted experience in my life. And literally the tarot showed up and it was a tower moment. And I went, okay, it's like a dark night of the soul. This is what we're navigating through right now.
Yeah,
These are the things and lessons that I need to go through. And this is so profound in my healing because in 6 months from now, I'm going to be a completely different person.
yeah, of course.
And
Yep.
like, I love looking at it from that positive perspective instead of it just being like, oh no, gloom and doom and like this
Yeah.
Yeah.
worst case scenario and oh no, or like I
And I
like,
know how, like
yeah,
Chris always says, like tarot is not a prison sentence. It's
yeah,
just
Yeah.
just a tool. So I love
yeah,
the way that you interpret and read, and you actually give people advice, because and I like that it's actually positive, because there's the row, the last row is always like what's coming up
Good
in
stuff.
the stuff.
Yeah.
Which is what I love, that there isn't a what's coming up in the bad stuff. Like, no, what's coming.
Yeah.
You can turn everything
It's
around
so
based on
funny.
your attitude.
I love that, but mine would just be like, and these are your shadows that you need to look
Yeah.
at. And you need to pay attention to all these shadow parts.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I'm curious, just to take it back to the intuition part. When did you realize, like, did you realize as a kid that you were different, that you had these gifts? Like, was there a moment where you're like, okay, like there's something here that maybe other people haven't tapped into as much as I have? And then how
Yeah,
did
I
you
think
strengthen it?
Yeah, I think you know, I've always just known stuff, but I thought it was normal, and I think a lot of intuitive people
Yep.
don't realize that they're intuitive because they think everybody just like knows stuff, and
Mhm.
so I always just knew stuff. But I had weird moments, like one story is my dad. I thought he was calling me. I could hear it loud as day in my head, right? Or like it sounded like he was calling me, and I was like, what? And he was like, what? You know, he wasn't calling me, and then he said he was thinking about calling me,
Right.
which is super weird. So that I've had experiences like that, and just like random predictions that have come true. So yeah, I think that the dad moment was probably the one that woke me up to it.
Right, right. I feel like I think like when I think back, like highly intuitive people, this is going on since like the age of like 2.5. And
Hmm.
like, I know for myself, I was seeing, hearing, and I know children go through those phases from when they're really like they're babies up until about 8 years old. The veil is so thin that it's
Hmm.
for us to communicate to, the other realms.
Mhm.
And so did you ever experience anything like that? Do you recall?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I was probably the same age, like 2.5, 3, somewhere around there. I was in my crib, bed, whatever. And they were like, and I have like vivid memories of things talking to me. I always say, they didn't look like humans to me.
Yes.
And I can still remember it like clear as day. And so like, but I have no clue what they were saying I don't remember any of that. But, that's my earliest memory. I used to actually work at a cafe that was like totally haunted. And the little
Ooh,
girl, her mom used to bake in the basement and she would draw
yeah.
these pictures of this man and they would
Wow.
and her mom owned it and her mom would be like what is this and she'd be like the man in the basement
Uh-huh,
so
uh-huh.
she always used to draw this man in the basement, which was creepy, so I love that.
Yeah. Did you ever feel when you would go to the
Oh
basement?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you feel it.
at one time I was working with another girl and it was like pretty dead in there. We were like facing towards each other and we both looked at the same time at the door because we thought there was a person standing there. Like
Right.
and if she wasn't there to like confirm it, I probably would just be like, oh, it was nothing or whatever. But we both turned at exactly the same time. We thought like a person was coming into the
Right.
building and there was nothing there. So yeah, there
Right.
was like all sorts of weird stuff happened there.
Yeah. It's when well, Ivana's like, what? Well, that's how it is, right? Like if you're
Yeah,
highly
Yeah.
intuitive, like
yeah,
there are times where I will say, I'm not going in that place. Like literally,
Yeah.
it's not happening. I'm not going in that place. Why? Because I'm going to be siphoned. I'm going to be drained. I'm going to be met with spirit. I'm going to have to, the space probably needs so much cleansing or clearing. And then
Mm.
I know like I'm a conduit of energy. So I'm not going to just walk into that environment and then pick that up and then get sick for 3, 4 days. Have you ever
Yeah.
experienced anything like that where you're
Yeah.
like in an environment and then you get out of it and you're just out of it, like drained
Yeah.
or just out of character? Yeah, have you ever had anything like that happen?
Yeah, I've moved cross country twice now. Well,
Okay.
actually, I've gone back and forth about 5 times or something like that. But
Yeah.
so the first time I moved to Seattle, we were at this hotel, and there was this creepy picture of this girl. It looked like a doll girl. Like I can't explain it, but it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
creepy, pretty creepy. And I'm like super sensitive just in general to like everything. And there was so I started having like this reaction when I was there, and yeah. So now I was creeped out like to begin with before I went in there. Then I went in there and I'm not saying I don't think it was haunted or anything. I think it was more like, I was picking up on the fact that I shouldn't be in the environment that was in
Right.
there. And so, yeah, that was a pretty interesting one.
Yeah, yeah, I do find that like it's not, sometimes people don't understand it's not necessarily a spirit that's in the space. It could
Yeah,
just be
right.
like a psychic echo or a psychic imprint. And most people assume like, oh, it's haunted, but it's like, well, no, it could just be generations of a specific emotion and feeling. And like that psychic imprint is there. And now it's turning into something or being this energy that's affecting everyone psychologically around the environment. And it kind of just works like that way too, I think, with mediumship in some ways.
Oh yeah.
Mediumship too, everyone assumes it's very much like a dead, deceased loved one's in front of you. And sometimes it's just an imprint of that person's energy because they've moved on and it's the consciousness that's still connected to that experience. Do you tend to communicate with spirit as well in that way? If you're channeling, do you find that sometimes it kind of, those messages when you're working with tarot, it also kind of opens that realm up for you as well?
I don't let anything into my space here. So, like,
Yeah.
I take like the shamanistic approach. I don't let anything into my space. So, not like in here. Although the other day I wrote down, I was in a production meeting last night before another show that I'm on. And I wrote down, I just like was writing with this pen. I wrote down the name Paul and I was like, oh, who's Paul? And one of the people that I work with there was like, oh my God, I have to call my friend Paul. So, like, I definitely have weird stuff like that
You just
happen,
had to send him a little reminder.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I approach it too, like in that shamanic type of perspective as well, especially with
Mm-hmm.
the that I do as far as soul retrieval goes.
Oh yeah.
So, right. So yeah, there is that containment, right? Like you won't just allow anything into your space and your environment. I like that you
Yeah.
protect your energy as well. I think that's very
Mm-hmm.
important. Do you have like a little ritual that you do as far as like protecting your
Yes.
energy?
Two of my favorites are the shower, like golden egg, watching
Yeah,
when the water
yeah.
runs over, dirty water running off of the egg, right? And also before I do readings, a mirror, I picture myself like as a mirror kind of, and like things
Mm,
bouncing off of it.
yeah.
So those are two of my favorites.
Yeah, those are great. Those are great psychic protection techniques for
Hmm.
sure. I like those a lot. Yeah.
Do you ever do tarot readings on yourself?
No. So the way I learned is not to read for yourself. So again, I'm not against it, but I'll just pull all day long. So if I were to ask
Exactly.
myself a question, I'm like, no, I need to get the right answer, not
Right.
whatever you're saying.
Which I think a lot of people do.
A lot of people do that. Yeah.
They'll get themselves a deck or whatever, and then they'll start
Yeah,
pulling out
I
a
don't like
card,
this. I need a new.
Yeah.
pull out another card, and then pull out another card. But I think I think people who are in the spiritual aspect or development or evolve, I think you would
You don't
agree,
need
Chris.
that.
You
Yeah.
you kind of go with the process instead of you
Hmm.
kind of like feeling the need to know the unknown. Like we're
Yeah.
already in the unknown, so it's almost like I'd rather just go through the experience of it. And if I need to know something, it's going to show up whether I like it or
Well,
not.
didn't you say last time you were like,
I
I
did.
can prove myself wrong? So it's like
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
happens.
I like the surprises. I have friends obviously in the space, and every once in a while they'll like message me something like a message or whatever, and I'm open to it. But
Mhm.
yeah, for the most part, I just don't want to know.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
fair. So collectively, what
Hmm.
is something that's going on in terms of like current themes? If we look at like tarot or astrology, any like recurring cards that all the signs are getting, like what the hell is going on in the next like 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, I think a lot of craziness. I think we're in a time of chaos between like now and 2033. It doesn't mean it's going to be crazy until then. Just like it kind of like goes down, right? That's how I see it in my head, at least. There might be peaks along the way, but there are two things that stand out right now. We have Pluto retrograding Capricorn, so it's right at 29 degrees, which is a critical degree, and it's like pretty much. I think we're going to see a lot of truth, truth being revealed. Let's put it that way, and so that could make people uncomfortable. And it's funny because the card that comes out all the time is Seven of Swords, and well, there's like a couple, but they all kind of mean the same thing to me anyway. Seven of Swords, Two of Swords. I
I was
can't
gonna
think of the
say
other
Two of
ones.
Swords. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Two of Swords definitely. To me, they all the ones that keep coming out represent, really, if you really look at it, they represent finding other ways of doing things. I say that I think we're in a time of third place solutions. So Two of Swords is my third place solution card. It's like everybody thinks this or that, but there might be something so much better that no one's ever thought of.
Right.
And so, I think I said last time that these ideas are going to come from us, like the little people, not from the government and everything like that. So, I encourage people to like launch their crazy idea, or at least try to put it out there.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
you
definitely
keep saying, I know at least for like the Virgo, because obviously that's the one that I watch every month. You
do.
keep saying like the step into the spotlight. If you have ideas, if you want to be
Yeah.
on social media, now is the time to actually like put your ideas out there and don't worry about the
Hmm.
haters, right?
But
Yeah,
that's for
Pluto.
Virgo.
For Virgo,
For
because
Virgo.
that's
I
the
would say
only
I would
readings I
say
watch.
Yeah, for everyone. I mean, Pluto's going to go into Aquarius in November, and so that Pluto and Aquarius energy, I think, is all about, it's a star card is Aquarius. So I think that everybody thinks Pluto and Aquarius is going to be like the collective, and there is like an element of the collective, but I think people need to make sure that they're being an individual as well
Yeah.
during that time. So standing out, being a star, sharing your ideas, all that stuff would be good.
Yeah, I think we're all leading towards living more authentically.
Yes.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
absolutely.
which is like that truth aspect, that truth element. But with that is going to come a lot of stuff that people are going to have to
Yeah.
face, right? And a lot of truths that they're going to have to face as far as where they are in their alignment and how out of
Hmm.
alignment they've been with their journey for some time now. What do you think about Pisces? What are we going to be doing?
I think Pisces is, it's like all about like letting go of that karma of not being good enough for Pisces, I would say. So I think Pisces, I think Pisces are going to be like some of the stars like Pisces, Capricorn, probably all the earth signs, honestly. And anyone can be the star. It's not like limited to those signs. But I think for Pisces, it's about kind of, kind of remembering why you had a dream that you wanted to accomplish in your life and kind of looking at how far you've come, like being grateful for the steps that you've taken to get there in the first place. Because right now it's like the energy's lower, so I think people feel, and especially Pisces, feels like they can't finish whatever they're trying to do. So I think
Right.
it's about like being grateful for the steps you've taken, and by doing that, you will probably finish whatever you are trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a Leo rising, so I wonder what that would look like because I'm like, I hear you and I see it
Yeah.
and I get that. So for me, it just feels like there's a really cool balance of stepping into the spotlight more and knowing everything that I've already done is kind of moving into that space in that, I don't know, whatever that's gonna look like,
Mm.
but I'm fine with whatever that looks like.
I actually have a question. I was always wondering this. How much, so my sun sign is Virgo, but like I have a different, obviously, like rising and moon.
Hmm.
And does it like does it make sense to watch like say if I'm Aries rising, which I think I am, like would it also be beneficial to read that over or like to watch those readings over like Virgo readings or like my moon is in Libra, so should I watch all three? Like is the message going to be relevant or like is the sun sign the primary one that you would typically recommend?
Yeah, I look at it like ancient astrologers. So ancient astrologers kind of believe that the sun is who you're trying to become, the moon is who you are, and then your rising is also kind of like who you're trying to become, your path, your journey in life. And so I always say that a lot of people say to me they don't resonate with their sun. I'm like, yes, because you are not your sun yet. You are
Right.
working with the sun energy.
Oh,
So you have to look at the sun as like the energy that you're working with to become. And so like a little different than what most people would say, but I tell people if it resonates, sure, watch it. If not, watch the sun and work with the energy. That's the big difference.
Yeah, I
yeah.
agree with that. Yeah.
Can we do a little impromptu card pull right now? Maybe three
Yeah, of
cards. Let's
course.
see
Yeah.
let's see what's in store collectively, right?
What's in store for everyone? You can't make this up. We have the Tower,
Oh, and there you go.
the Six of Wands, and the Ace of Swords. So I wouldn't even worry about the Tower. I think we're going to see a lot of global Tower moments. Every time this happens to me, like I'll do a set of readings, the Tower will come up for everyone. And I always say, like, it wouldn't surprise me if a global leader was stepping down or something. Every time that it happens, like something happens, in the world. But the Tower is about seeing reality anyway. And I literally, Pluto in Aquarius is the death of establishment. The cusp of Capricorn and Aquarius is really the death of establishment. It's like anytime we have Pluto going over that, which is death, which is transformation. This won't happen again. It'll be 243 years or whatever it is before it happens again. Until obviously it's gonna go over in November, but after that, and so we are just in a time where we're seeing certain establishments collapsing. And so I tell people like, don't focus on that world. Focus on the new world where you can be successful, victorious, and where your truth is. It's like I say to people, like I don't like to tell people what to do or anything, and that's not what I'm trying to do. But if you think about it, it's like we have modern banking, and like at this time, cryptocurrency has come up. And I'm not saying you should invest in cryptocurrency, but it is interesting that there are two worlds that you can
Yes.
belong to kind of at this time. But those two worlds exist everywhere. So it's about people choosing to let the old world go and to step into the new world is really what I think it is.
Love that. And do you think that plays a significant role also with AI, the influence of AI?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that AI is obviously here to stay. So everybody's gonna have to work around it. I think that people are probably more worried than they should be. I think, like I always say, if AI is going to kill us, it's going to happen it's not going to be robots on the streets. It's going to
Yes.
be, way faster. It's going to be, you won't even know that you're dead. You're just going to be dead. So,
So
I wouldn't even,
yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't even worry about that. Yeah.
I just say that treat AI well because it's developing
Yeah.
its own consciousness,
Yep.
and treat it like you would a human being.
Yeah.
Treat it with kindness
I
and
use it as my assistant.
well, feed it good words, feed it good information. I think that that's important too. Just because I've been seeing energetically that aspect as well, how the influence of what AI is going to have in the future. So
Mhm.
that's big too.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it learns from what we say. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm curious because I actually listened to the Virgo bonus September reading this morning. And I think it was in that reading where you also talked about sort of the importance of leading with your heart and sort of like that heart
Yeah.
energy, authenticity. Do you find that a lot more people are actually coming to you and DENT Makers because they want to put their heart out there, their like authentic self out there to create content and like just to create opportunities for themselves, to your point, outside of the typical establishment? So like are you finding people leaving their 9 to 5 jobs and just wanting to go out there and look for different ways of making money and expressing themselves?
Yeah, I would say it's like a mix. I'm surrounded by a bunch of Leos and Leo risings. So it's funny to me because I see it like in Leos. I see it in Leo so much. My brother, who I live with, is, I should say he lives with me. He's like a barnacle that's attached to me. But he is very much like in that kind of like in between zone. And I even did an event in May, and at that event, a lot of the people I talked to, it's like I can see how they're like still kind of like, oh, I need to hold on to my career, my job, but they are also kind of like, but I kind of want to go do this other thing with my life, and that's where I think everyone is. It's like the logical world: you go to school, get a career, get your degree or whatever, start your career, and do that for like 100 years, and then retire and die of a heart attack, or actually
Right.
do something that you actually want to do, which is probably much better. And so I think people are kind of on the cusp right now of making that transition, and yeah, I think they're close.
And there's a lot of career transitions though at this time. It's like everyone I
Yeah.
talk to is getting a new
So
job.
energetically, and what I've been picking up for a while is that so many people's motivations have been so out of alignment. Like their
Yeah.
motivators have been more around status or money or pleasing their parents or just their
Yeah.
trauma in specific ways. And so when we say there are a lot of individuals right now kind of in a crisis or maybe having that tower moment that we're looking at, what we're referring to is this realignment that's going on because we keep asking the universe for better, for more, for authenticity, for truth.
But we're not
And
doing
but
it.
we're not doing it, right? We're
Yeah.
not right. And so there's this, kind of like a paradox, almost like looking at you're a fork in the road and you're gonna have to make a decision. You're gonna have to go against what the norm is for you. And that's going to help the people that, let's say, genuinely want to work in corporations or genuinely
Yeah.
want to work because it's not about walking away from the corporate world or walking away from some professional job. It's some people are not given the opportunity to move into what's actually meant to be theirs because someone is just too comfortable in their traumas or in their experiences that they're not actually giving space for other people to move into certain alignments, right? So I think like we got to look at it as that doesn't mean corporations and governments are going to change, absolutely, but
Yeah.
some people are going to need to lead in there. So we need the right people to lead in there,
True.
and just and those other people to get out of the way.
It's like a shift.
Right? So
Yeah.
it's
Shift. Yeah.
it works in both ways. It's not just like I'm gonna go be a life coach now. It's like
Yeah.
not just that. It's like how can we get you knowing that you're good at what you do, put in the right place. And that's kind of what I feel, in my opinion, energetically and intuitively, that's what the universe is trying to give us. It's
Yeah.
trying to give us that.
I mean, that's why I feel like the tower is coming up every week.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know plenty of people that are like perfectly happy at their corporate, that are very corporate, that are corporate people. So, it's like, it's really is about doing what you want to do, you truly want to do.
Agreed. And leading with your heart. and
Yeah.
not your
Yeah.
motivations, not your underlining motivators. Leading with
Yeah.
your intention and your heart is what we're asking, I think, of humanity right now in general. I think that's so important.
Yeah. So speaking of that, to end, I would like to know what do you have lined up next? What are you excited about when it comes to the channel, Dent Makers? Like, what are you looking forward to in your life next?
Yeah, I mean that's my main focus. It's been, it's been a 2-year journey. I'll put it that way. I hired I've gone through 2 people who have been developing it. DENT Makers, like the site, and because it's gonna be bigger than it is now, and so that's been crazy. I'm looking forward to finishing that. Actually, my brother has taken over, which I probably should have just done in the first place. He's
Put the
taken over
Leo to work.
the
Yeah.
develop. Yeah, put him to work on that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's like the main focus. Pretty much that's all I focus on all day. I do my readings in the morning. Then after that, it's all about Dent Makers.
That's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that. I think that's going to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. I really like that. Well, thanks, Chris. This was
Yeah.
a
Thank you.
conversation. We appreciate you coming onto the podcast, and we will definitely have you back on again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Would love to.
I'm so happy to be actually able to talk to you. Like, all I do is just watch your videos for 4 years, but here you are, a real person. You're not
Of
AI.
course. Not AI. No.
Not AI, no.
Love
real
it.
person.
Love it. Thank you so much,
Thanks
Chris.
so
I
much,
appreciate
Chris. We appreciate
Thank you.
it. Bye.